Do you remember playing in Bristol?
Of course, I remember you. You're tall as fuck.
Yeah, that's yeah, that's me.
Yeah, you're that real handsome, tall motherfucker who plays music, and I think, what the hell was that club?
It was called High Brazil, but the thing is with that place now, it's shut down, reopened as like an O'Neill's bar, and O'Neill's in England. It's very it's the same as every other bar. It used to be a bit unique, have a bit of something about it, but now it's not really like that. So hopefully next time you come to Bristol, there'll be another bar ready for you to play. That'll be a bit more like that one. You know what I mean?
That was like a Sunday or a Monday.
Yeah, it was. It was. It. I remember it so clearly because I remember thinking, "There's not enough people at this show. A lot of people are missing a good gig here." But what inspired me after that show, you actually taught me something. You didn't care. You walked out. You were on the piano. You were given the energetic performance that you always do, and it made no difference. I think you would play in front of three people and give the same. What do you reckon?
Absolutely. Wait, am I allowed to curse? Are we on the radio?
We're not on the radio right now, but I'm gonna have to edit out some of the swearing, yeah, because the
All
radio
right.
station we're on, it's one of those real, every little thing you got to be careful about what you say. I've been told off more than once, and
Okay. I'll be good. I'll be good. Yeah, absolutely. Like, people are paying the hard-earned money to see a show. And I just believe if you're going to do something, you got to do it well. I have a new song on our new album that's coming out. The song is called Nobody Else Will Believe You.
yes,
And the chorus is, do your shit. You'll bleep that part. Do your shit.
I'll bleep that bit. Yeah,
Do your shit. Do it well.
yeah.
Okay? If
Nobody
you are
else.
there to entertain, if you are there to inspire, if you are there to make people heighten all their senses, right? If you are there to excite and titillate and bring about a physical and emotional change, as I like to say, change the molecules in the room, you got to bring it, baby. And I don't care if there's 10 people or 10,000 people.
Yeah.
You got to bring it. I want people to walk out of the club remembering that night, remembering how they felt. And I want them to come back for more.
Absolutely, but I think you did that night. Everyone I went down with were 100% they'll be back, and you know me, I'm a big fan, and
Well,
I'm
let
not.
me ask you. You
Go on.
brought friends to the show,
Yeah,
and did they know anything about Low Cut Connie?
only what I'd showed them, and you know what it's like when you show someone a new band that you're already passionate about. They'll listen to one or two tracks, and then you'll sort of go, "Well, listen to this one, listen to this one." I've actually set up a Spotify playlist. It's called, my name's Ben Cooling, right? So I call it Low Cut Cooling, and I put my favorite Low Cut Connie tracks on there, and then people have like added that playlist, and they, we'll go to a party or something, and they'll chuck it on. I know I always do, because it's great music to sort of have a beer with, and have fun to. And that's what I think it's all about. I think you said it in another interview once, I think, Adam, where you were like, we're a rock and roll band. And I really like that. I think it's not rock, it's not pop, it's rock and roll. It's sat right perfectly within that. And not only with the tunes, but also with the performance. You bring quite a lot to the stage. I just wondered how Low Cut Connie started, though, because you've been going for 10 years now, you yourself, and the band's changed over the years. So where did it all start? In Philadelphia?
I've had over 30 people in the band.
Yeah, unbelievable.
How big of a pain in the ass must I be?
Yeah.
But you know what? Will Donnelly
Yeah, guitar.
has been in the band over 7 years, and he's like my right arm. And we've been really getting through a crazy time with the pandemic, where we can't tour, and me and him are kind of keeping the Low Cut Connie flame alive.
Yeah.
But where did it start? It was an unplanned pregnancy, Ben. I got together a group of buddies, one of whom is my pal Dan, Finnemore, who's from Birmingham, England. He's a Brummie. And I have a very dear, dear friend from Florida named Neil Duncan. And he and I had worked together on a bunch of albums for my old bands before Low Cut. And I had decided that my music career was never going to happen. It was like over. I was turning 30. I had got offered a very good teaching job in New York City. And I just figured if it hasn't happened by now, it ain't going to happen. So I thought music is going to be like a nights and weekends thing for me.
Right.
And before I get into that part of my life, this summer, which was the summer of 2010, I thought, let me do one last crazy thing, one last fun thing. So I asked Dan if he would like to come with me to Florida and record some songs. And I asked Neil if I could come down there with my buddy, and he brought his buddy Russell to play bass. And so we get together, these 4 people, and we get in this little garage studio, which was, it was about 100 degrees, which is like 40, you do Celsius, right? So it was like 41, 42 degrees Celsius, right?
It's the other way for us. Yeah, we're that would kill you. Yeah.
Well, so we're in Gainesville, Florida in July, and it's 100 degrees. We got no air conditioning or fans. We get in this little garage, and we just started to play Rio. I had written this song called Rio.
Yes.
And we recorded it in one take. What you hear is what you get, everything live. And we were all so close together in the room that I could play the piano and reach out and touch the drums, you know? And I never played piano so hard in my life. We were just going for it. And by the end of about 2.5 to 3 days, instead of this 4-song EP that I thought we were going to do, we had this 11-song album.
Yeah, and that's Get Out the Lotion.
Get Out the Lotion. We didn't, there was no plan for it to be a band. Everybody lived in different places. Dan lived in England. I lived in New York. Those guys were in Florida. But it was very clear that the music was special,
Yeah, definitely, without a doubt.
It was like, I remember the guys, them saying, this is like pure Chuck Berry rock and roll. Like, it's not, I remember Neil saying, it's not rock, that's rock and roll, right?
Yeah.
After we finished Rio. And it was just sort of a magic couple days, and it's a couple days that changed my life.
I mean, you've carried on though. You've worked hard because now you're on album 6. I mean, it's a long time later, but this album's an odd one for me because you've released 5 singles from it, and because of the lockdown, you've been doing Tough Cookies, which is you guys playing, you and Will playing in your house, and you've done over 50 hours of that. I can't believe how many the covers you do as well in those sets. You must be the hardest working man in rock and roll to a certain degree, because a lot of people would struggle. You're doing 2 shows a week. There's got to be a Guinness World Record or something, and that. What do you reckon?
I've covered about 500 songs, and we are about to do our 52nd hour.
Yeah.
First 3 episodes were me and Will, and then because I got ill, we had to quarantine from each other for 7 or 8 weeks. So
right,
I did another 15 or 16 shows without him solo, and kept it alive. And even though I wasn't feeling well, and then we got back together, and I never ever thought I'd be doing this for 7 months, and we get people watching from 40 countries.
Well, I was going to say it's quite an interesting thing about saying about not expecting to do it for 7 months. I don't think anyone expected the situation to be going on for such a long time. But what's it been? What's it like for you in Philadelphia at the moment?
Well, it's tenuous, you know. It's kind of like we just got word that we're gonna be allowed to have restaurants and bars at 25% capacity.
Right.
It's been a mess with the schools here. Some of them opened, some of them didn't. Some of them opened, had cases, and then reclosed. It's a mess, but
Yeah.
people in Philly are tough. You know, we could take a licking and keep on ticking. So we just, I've been very impressed with the community here, the arts community that has banded together. And ahead of the election, a lot of us have been working together to try and make some changes. And as difficult as things have been, I've been quite inspired over these last 7 months. I have a lot of viewers who are nurses and doctors and social workers who work in the hospitals, and they show the Tough Cookies performances in the hospital. And I basically try to just inspire people to not get discouraged and to keep their energy focused on keeping themselves well and trying to make your world and our world, whether it's your block, your home, your city or your state or your country, healthier, both mentally and physically, and more just. And I've been really inspired, man, because the Tough Cookies viewers, and we have all these people that have been tuning in for 51 episodes, all over the world. They are so kind to each other. When people share in the feed that they've lost a loved one or lost a job or are feeling depressed, everybody swarms around them and offers them support. And at a time when there's a lot of vitriolic activity all around us, it's been amazing to see the kindness and the resilience of these Low Cut Connie fans. And it's kept me going because I have my days, let me tell you.
Yeah, I was going to say, what's a sort of normal day like for you at the moment? I mean, obviously you're probably filling your time working on the band and learning these tunes. I mean, these covers, you must spend quite a lot of time learning them because you don't pick easy songs. I mean, it's easy to do a cover, but you pick hard songs. I was only do Lana Del Rey the other day, I think it was, and I think you've done a couple of Queen ones, you've done a couple of Bowie ones, Little Richard. You even do songs from 100 years ago. So you'll pick a random song that most people wouldn't have heard of from
Right,
100 years ago. It's so interesting.
No one to talk with, all by myself. No one to walk with, I'm just happy on a shelf. Ain't misbehaving, saving all my love for you. I'll do that, and then I'll go into Cardi B.
Yeah, I know you've got the most eclectic sort of taste. When you were growing up, who were your main people that you were looking at and going, that's inspiring? So you're inspiring other people now, but who inspired you?
Well, as a live performer, when I was about 4 years old, that summer, Purple Rain and Born in the USA came out, and I remember watching MTV and seeing TV and seeing Prince and Bruce Springsteen on stage, and being mesmerized. I think those two guys got into my psyche very early, but then later I came to appreciate and be inspired by James Brown, Tina Turner, Patti Smith, Iggy Pop, Mick Jagger, so many live performers that have been, Otis Redding, who get on stage and they just take over the joint.
Yeah.
And really, as I say, change the molecules in the room. You know, obviously, from a songwriting perspective, like everybody, Bob Dylan, Smokey Robinson, you know, but as a live performer, which is how I really identify myself as a sort of born performer, people like Prince that try to truly be a magician on stage and truly try to give people an experience they'll never forget. Those are the people I look up to, you know?
Yeah. They're iconic. I mean, I think sometimes it's not even the performance. I've been to gigs before where I've gone, it's just the music takes over anything you've seen before. And a good example, actually, for me is Motorhead. Like, that was such a power when Lemmy walked on stage. You're like, whoa, hang on a second. Here we go. Here we go. It's a presence.
Yeah.
And I can only imagine what it would have been like. My dad saw Freddie Mercury quite a few times, and Phil Lynott from Thin Lizzy and bands like that. And they've got the same thing when they walk on. But I think it's important what you do. And in terms of, like, with that gig that you played at Bristol, that would not have been an easy gig for you. You're used to playing bigger places now. And you took over that room, and there was only about 40, 50 people maybe in there.
You know what, Ben? I spent so many years being unsuccessful in performing, and I bombed more than I killed. So I purposefully put myself in front of hostile audiences for years, and I want to tell you that I came to England about 5 times before Low Cut Connie.
Right.
I came for the first time in I think it was 2004 or 5 or maybe 6, and I performed in London at this thing called Dirty Water Club, and I went to Birmingham and played the Sunflower Lounge, and then I kept coming back every year, and I would tour by myself from Leeds to Bristol to Brighton to Northampton, but I was playing, you know, working man's pubs. You know, I was playing anywhere that would have me. And let me tell you, the British audiences, they can be rough. So I would get up there and nobody would know me. Not one fan. I had no fans. And I would get up there and I would say, I have to win these people over. And I did that for years. I did it across the USA probably 5 or 6 times, Canada, Germany, France. I went to Portugal. And my goal was always to learn how to succeed as a performer.
Do you think you've got a little bit of knowledge now that you could pass on? I mean, I've always said for performance, one of the main things is to know your material to a certain degree where you can jump about a bit. Because you do so much theatrics on stage that if you didn't know the songs, you couldn't do it. So you must practice hard to get to that point and play them so many times.
Well, I got my 10 or 20,000 hours, you know, whatever the Beatles got in Hamburg, I got during all those years of live performing for hostile audiences. And eventually you learn how to be in the moment, whether you know the material or not, because on Tough Cookies, I have a loose grasp at best.
Yeah.
of the songs that I'm playing. And poor Will, sometimes he's never heard of it. And it's curveball after curveball. It's like a tightrope walk, right? And I learned how to do that. I learned how to exist just in that moment, not be thinking about tomorrow or yesterday or an hour from now or an hour ago. How do you exist right in that exact moment? And the thing has been, I was never really ambitious. This is one thing that I would highlight. I never had the kind of ego in my 20s that certain very successful people have in entertainment. I had talent, but I didn't, and I had a hunger to play music and perform, but I wasn't, I guess, what you would call ambitious.
Right.
And once Low Cut Connie happened, and we started to perform, and we started to build a following, and people did start to take notice, my performances on stage, I would just go further and further and go further out into the deep water, as David Bowie said. And I realized maybe about 7 or 8 years ago that I had gifts that I could share with the world. And I basically had to commit myself that I was going to take those gifts and use them, and that it was sort of my duty to reach as many people as I could reach.
Right.
Right. And at the cost of financial cost, at great personal cost, physical and mental cost, friendships, relationships, whatever, I focused my energy on getting Low Cut Connie and the music to be as great as it could be and reach as many people as it could reach. And so in my 30s, I had to kind of like develop a new kind of drive, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, definitely, definitely.
I had talent before I had ambition, if that makes sense.
It's like, it sounds to me, it's like the sort of old school thing of saying you do what you love and you love what you do. It's not going to work for you, is it? If you don't play these tunes and get out there on the road, it must be really hard at the moment being locked in when you're with a guy you've just named all these countries that you played, and now you're sort of sat next to your piano. And in a way, I suppose the tough cookies thing, you've helped quite a lot of people in escaping on a Thursday night or on a Saturday night, but it's helped you as well.
Oh, 100%. I mean, if I wasn't able to perform, I would get very depressed. And I did initially in March. Then I said I got to get up off the couch and I got to rattle the cage.
It's rock and
I
roll.
got to rattle my own cage, and I got to get other people rattled. And a couple of weeks, once I did 3, 4, 5 episodes, and I started getting these videos, photographs, and messages from viewers and people that have lost loved ones and jobs, people that were really struggling. And they would say, "You made me feel alive for the first time in a while." Or the nurses in the intensive care units, the COVID units, that would take the cell phone and put it in a plastic bag and nail it to the wall in the hospital so that the patients and the nurses could watch me performing. Once I saw that, I said, "Yo, I have to keep this going.
And
This is something that I could be of service to people."
but you did actually. It's one of the few memories I've got of the whole lockdown thing. Is just, it's been a blur really. And what one memory I do have of your shows is you did a show at a hospital, didn't you? A
Yes,
local hospital to you. I mean, you set up sort of in the
court.
out courtyard and played you and Will just blasting out the tunes, and there was quite a few people watching out the windows and nurses and stuff
Yeah,
stood around, and that was right in the thick of it as well. That wasn't like
that
now where
was
it's
May.
sort of, that was in May. Yeah.
Yeah,
How
and
did that come about?
the nurses at that hospital in New Jersey watched the show regularly, and they would show it to the patients. And they asked us if we could come and do it. And I said, you know, how can we do it safely? Like, I don't know how we even do that. And so they said, "We have an idea." And so they set the whole thing up. They have a courtyard, and the patients are in a high rise, you know, looking at the windows, looking down at the courtyard. And then the staff, the social workers, the drivers, the janitors, the doctors, they could all stand in a big horseshoe around the building So everybody was very far apart. And we put the piano in the middle of the courtyard with speakers and Will's guitar, and we performed up to the people.
Yeah.
And at that point, I hadn't seen Will in 2 months. And that was our first show back together. And it was very emotional. I mean, these doctors and nurses, these patients, they are going through it. I mean, they are so isolated. And in America, we've had such a struggle wrapping our heads around this crisis. It's been such a fight. And these poor people in these hospitals, they're not getting the support that they need. And it's very disconcerting. And a lot of these people are really sacrificing for the greater good. We do not have what you have in England, the National Health Service. We don't have that.
No.
We have a very tricky, broken system of healthcare. And the fact that I could go in there and do something that could maybe express gratitude to these healthcare workers and maybe give some hope to these patients, it was powerful. It was very powerful.
It's great. It's great what you've done with that. I think there must be some sort of record, Adam, of the amount of live shows that someone's done through lockdown, and you must be a contender to win that, I reckon. But the other thing, go on.
My record label is called Contender Records. That's my
Well,
own
you're
little...
a contender, mate.
Yeah, I'll show you. Look, this is our this is our stationery, right? You see it says Low Cut Connie, and there's Contender Records. And I'm a big boxing fan, and it's my own little label, and I just remind myself, keep punching, keep working, keep finding new angles.
You're the Tyson Fury of rock and roll.
Tyson Fury, baby. That's my dude.
He's a legend.
He just don't call it a comeback. I mean, he just came back from great health crises, mental health crises.
Well, yeah, I mean, he's an ambassador. He's an ambassador for mental health. There's no two ways about that. And I think he's probably one of the most honest people about it as well. He's great. He's in such a position. He's a heavyweight champion of the world or whatever, and that's a vulnerable spot in a way. But he's not afraid, is he?
No, I'm a fan. I'm a big boxing fan.
What do you think about stuff like going from Tyson Fury is quite an interesting one because he's quite heavy on social media. And I know you guys, I mean, it's part of the music industry now, social media. But how do you find it? How do you find social media? Do you think it plays a big part in music and a big part of the world in general? Or do you dislike it? Are you a bit more old school?
Both. I'm a realist, so there's no way that I could promote the records, the shows, the videos, the songs without social media, which is really, let's just be honest, Ben, it's a utility now. I mean, it's no longer a supplement to our communication. It is, it's really the central part of our communication, whether I like that or not. Now, there's aspects of social media I'm not comfortable with. And as my fans know, I do not tolerate unkindness on our social media pages. We really try to create an accepting, kind forum for our fans. So I really don't care for using social media in an inflammatory way or to denigrate anyone or any sort of judgment. But also, Ben, I'm just a very private person. My new record is called Private Lives.
Private Lives, yeah.
I don't really care to share my offstage life too much.
You say that, Adam, but I've seen you in that dressing gown and the pants you were out there first show of private life, not private lives, tough cookies, the live stuff. It was a shock to me because it starts off quite good, it's rock and roll, and then I think it was about 20 minutes in, you're in a dressing gown, and that's become a legendary shot now. That's become an iconic Low Cut Connie piece. Do you think?
It wasn't planned, and it's very hot. It's very hot. And I never did a show in my house before. And me and Will were in jeans and, jean jackets and shit. And I don't use air conditioning. I like hot. I like to sweat. So
schwitz, you call it schwitz.
Yeah, you got to schwitz, baby. And so pretty quickly it got very hot in the room. And I could not imagine continuing to perform in my jeans and jean jacket. So I just got down to the basics, and it just clearly, our fans started to do the same thing. And it was a kind of acknowledgement of the awkwardness of performing at home and viewing at home. But I just wanted to tell people, just do what you feel, make yourself comfortable. There are kind of no rules here, and I want people to know that I'm a human being too, and I have my days where I'm depressed or feeling ill, and it's kind of like the show is very pure. It's very raw. I don't have lights, I don't have microphones. I sing just like I'm talking to you.
Yeah.
And there's no script. There's no set list. And I've just sort of dove into the awkwardness of the live streaming format and tried to make it funny, tried to make it titillating, tried to make it exciting and unpredictable.
It's definitely that. It's all those things. It's entertainment at its best. I think you've done about as good as someone could do in that situation. I really do. And the other thing that I found quite interesting is the amount of songs you've played off the new album. That's got me into it more and more. And it was great because you just released a single called Help Me. And that's one of my favorites that you've been playing in the live section. But you've been playing these songs quite a long time before COVID. You were playing them last year, weren't you? So how long's this album taken to put together?
I started recording what became Private Lives before Dirty Pictures the Dirty Pictures albums came out.
It's about 2018, that one.
Well, Dirty Pictures 1 was 17.
Yeah.
Dirty Pictures 2 was 18. But the sessions for Private Lives go all the way back to 2017. Right. It took me 3 years to make, and Ben, it's been a mess. I mean, all my other records I made quick. Boom. Get it done. This one was 3 years, 7 studios, 7 different cities, over 40 people played on the record. I recorded close to 50 songs, and it was a complete unfocused, wild mess. And then in 2019, I finally focused my eyes and was able to see the album within that pile of music.
Yeah.
The song Private Lives and the song Look What They Did were very late to the party. And once I got those 2 songs at the end in 2019, I knew I had something special, and I knew which songs to thread together.
Right. And it's a double album. There's a lot of tracks on this album, and there's some I've heard it only once, I think. Is it Wild
Ride?
Wild Ride. But you obviously the 5 singles, and the one you were just talking about a minute ago that I can't remember.
Private Life.
Believe You.
Nobody else will believe you.
That's the one, and I can't wait to hear the recording of that. I think it's probably more frustrating for me because you've heard these songs, the recording, and I'm waiting. I'm going, it's the 13th of October. I'm waiting for the 13th. Can't wait.
Yes.
And I play your songs on our show pretty often. I can't remember how many times now. Big Thighs, New Jersey is my favorite one. In fact, in Bristol, when you came, I shouted out so many times. You got up on your piano and you said, I'm going to play this song so this guy stops bugging me.
Yeah. I got you. Hold on. That's because you got good taste, my friend.
Well, I was going to ask you before you play it. I want to know what this song's about.
Big Guys, New Jersey.
Yeah, what's it all about?
I mean, I grew up in New Jersey. You ever been there?
Yeah, briefly. I went to Atlantic City and through to get to Atlantic City, which is obviously what you wrote the song about.
Look What They Did.
Look What They Did, all about Atlantic City. And I saw that, funnily enough, when I went there, because you can see what it was and what it sort of is now. And it is a sad... I can't imagine what it must be like to have grown up there and seen the sort of decline in it, or being... From a first-time point of view, this was 2016 I went.
Yeah.
So I don't know how it's changed in the last 4 years, but during that period when I was there, it was
rough.
Yeah, it was a bit rough.
Well, yeah, I mean, I grew up all my summers in Atlantic City, and it's just it's always one step forward, one step back. They're always trying. But I wrote the song Look What They Did because I wanted people to see a character study of what it is to grow up there, what the people who grow up there and the people that are trying to raise families there, and what a challenge it is. And when I was very, very young, they had, or even right before I was born, they had a referendum, a vote of the citizens of Atlantic City, where to decide if they were going to bring in casinos, right? And it failed a couple times, but then finally they convinced the people in Atlantic City to vote for casinos because they said that a very large percentage of the profits from the casinos would go towards schools and hospitals, senior citizens, healthcare, parks, and that it would create a lot of local jobs. And people were very excited about this. There were parties the night that it passed. And then Trump and all of his buddies came in the early 80s and they built these casinos, but they were different casinos than we'd ever seen before. They were self-contained economies where you drove in and parked there.
Right.
And there's restaurants inside and dry cleaning and coffee shops and shopping, and you never ever need to leave the building.
Yeah. So
it was decimated the local economy.
It had the opposite effect, didn't it?
And there was no money directed towards the local infrastructure. And so it was actually kind of a death knell for a lot of people and their families and trying to get by in Atlantic City. And then fast forward a couple decades, as it started to go downhill, when gambling was legalized in other parts of the country, and Las Vegas had this huge revival, Trump aggressively, preemptively bankrupted his casinos and left. And he didn't pay all these outstanding bills. He didn't pay the carpenters. He didn't pay the metal workers. He didn't pay the caterers. And he just really left it in a shambles. And I don't consider Look What They Did a political song. I consider it a character study just about what it is to grow up there. I'll give you like a couple bars of it. Can you hear that?
Yeah, just about. It's weird, isn't it, with the guitars and that? So it sounds a bit floaty. I think it's when what happens is it's too much for the mic. I tried to do some of this earlier on. I played a few notes because I was hoping that me and you could do a duet where I would play the guitar for Big Thighs New Jersey and you would do a little bit of the vocal for like the first verse or something, and it didn't quite come across. We could try, maybe.
Well, I don't know if you can hear the guitar, but I'll just sing.
Yeah.
Tough shit for the little guy. Can you hear that?
Yeah.
Tough shit for the little guy, living like a chump with his back to the wall. You want to scream in the face, it makes no difference at all. They built casinos in 1981. They said the whole frickin' city's gonna grow. Donald Trump made $500 million. What have we got to show? Look at what they did to the people. Look at what they did to the town. Look how they built up the dream and now they're tearing it down. They always gave us a hard time, and baby, you know, we did the best that we could. But when you look at what it did to the children, baby, you know it doesn't sit with me good. That's the first half of Look What They Did off of our new album, Private Lives.
It's a great record. What I'm going to do is when we play this, we broadcast this, I'm going to play that song at that point.
Okay.
I'm going to play, because I'm going to play a few on the show. You know, I'm ending the next show, funnily enough, with Beverly. It's one of my favorites as well. There's so many songs you got, Adam. It's ridiculous. I suppose the other question I got for you is how did you whittle down those 50 tracks for Private Lives to the ones that you've got?
It wasn't fun, but I knew that I knew what I wanted thematically the album to be, and it had to be character studies. Had to be character studies. And you got this song called Private Lives,
yeah,
which is sort of a sequel song to my song Boozophilia. And Private Lives, we get all these characters, and it's all these night people. It's subcultures, and you can watch the video and you can see what I mean. But it very much points to how people make communities and make subcultures when they're on the fringes of society, right? Whether they're transgender or gay or racial or ethnic minority, or they're into some sort of criminal activity, or they're whatever it is, they're on the outside of the mainstream culture, right? Yeah. And those are the people I'm interested in. So I made this sort of thing called Private Lives, which is sort of like a collection of those people. And then from there, you get these individual stories, these individual character portraits. And the music that fell outside of that, I'll put it out somewhere some other time.
Well, that was what I was going to say, because that's a really interesting concept. But obviously, you probably got so many other songs there that people want to hear, you know. And I'm one of those people. But do you reckon we could do this? Hang on, let me see if you can hear this guitar, because I learned this especially for you, Adam.
Okay, I'm going to be very impressed.
I think we got the same guitar.
You know, is that a Martin?
I think so. Yeah, it is. I know it is. Sorry, I don't know what I think.
I have that same guitar. Today I'm playing a different one.
Oh, yeah. I think you've used this one on
but that's the one I've had forever, 15, probably 20 years.
Yeah, because I've seen you play it on Tough Cookies. I see. Can you hear this?
Yep. Stole a box of appliances from a strip mall in your hometown. Sent them to the station Makes you wanna spin your juice around. From your past life in the kick line, you used to give all your tips to God. I sent my meat truck door to door while you were cheering for the squad. You're the black sheep of the band. Black sheep learns to kill and leave big thighs to jerk. Great big space to fill.
I think Will's safe. I think he's safe over there, Will.
It's tricky because when you do Zoom, you can't really hear two things at once.
It's a delay. It's a mess. It's a mess on the guitars. The piano, when you play, it comes across great. But for me, Adam, I'm going to love you and leave you because I'm sure you've got other people to chat to and stuff like that.
Can you hear that?
Yeah, it comes through better on the piano.
That's just the intro to my song, Beverly.
Beverly. Adam, thanks so much, man.
My pleasure. Keep in touch, my pal. Thank you for the support. Thank you for the energy. Stay tall, stay handsome, stay musical.
That's the plan. But I'll tell you what,
talking to you real soon.
We will talk again. And the other thing I was going to say is I was meant to be interviewing you in New York back in May, but that gig got cancelled. So I'm really hoping that next time I'm going to fly over, because I was flying over just for that and a bit of a holiday. But that was the main reason, all revolving around that gig you were doing. And
my hope is that next year, one way or the other, we can get over to Europe, get over to the UK. We've been invited to Germany. We've been invited to Australia and New Zealand. I hope, I wish, but I promise you, whenever it happens, when it's possible, we'll do the interview and we'll get to hang. And hopefully it'll be a more peaceful and a healthier time for all of us.
I hope so too, Adam. Well, thanks very much, mate. You take it easy, all right? Rock
Take
and
care
roll.
of yourself.
Bye.
Bye.
I don't understand it.